Hey gaming crew! Welcome to my top 3 games of October 2018. If you'd like to listen to the previous month's podcast, you'll find the link in the description below. Please note, this is my top 3 list out of all the games I played throughout the month. It does not include games that I played before 2018 and does not include games that I played in 2019. The criteria I used is arbitrarily ranked with an arbitrary rating system and solely reflects my preferences. If you have a list of games that you enjoyed, that's great! Let me know in the comments below. If you think I'm wrong about a game I like and that I should have liked something else, please move along. This is my list and not yours. And with that, let's get going with October 2018. By now, you should know that I love post-apocalyptic games and that I love dice. If you hadn't, well, now you do. Now imagine that I have a post-apocalyptic game that has both of these aspects, in addition to using the dice as resources to purchase cards, activate abilities, and that every turn, everyone gets to draft dice. Well, with this game, you have all of this and more. The game is Colony. Colony is a game designed by Ted Elspeth, Torio Hojo, and Nakatsu Yoshihisa. It's published by Bezier Games. The game can host from 1 to 4 players aged 13 or older and lasts from 45 to 60 minutes. The story of the game is interesting. It's not your standard apocalyptic event, and instead civilization collapsed due to a nano-apocalypse. Still post-apocalyptic, but with nanotechnology instead. Grey goo is a bad stuff. But luckily, it's not in this game. Grey goo, by the way, is a swarm of nanites that break down materials to create more grey goo. Not a happy ending for anybody caught in. In Colony, players use dice as resources. There's no specific name for the resources, but there are 2 types. Stable, the white dice, and unstable, the transparent or frosted grey dice. Each player has a colony, and it's their goal to gain as many victory points as possible by building new structures. These are buildings such as vaults, perimeter fences, various production facilities, and the like. Each card requires a certain combination of values in order to purchase them, such as 5 5s or 3 3s, plus 1 6. There are many combinations of dice. In nearly all cases, you can use any combination of stable and unstable dice to pay the building costs. Each building provides some benefit, action, or space for dice. There are cards that exchange any die for 2 stable dice of different values that generate unstable dice, cards that produce points, cards that produce defense from attacks, cards that provide spaces for dice which act as points or as extra storage, and cards that are attacks against other players. Every player has their own set of starting cards, which provide a warehouse, a way to exchange 2 dice of an equal value into a stable die of any value, a build action or a chippy generator, and an upgrade card. Chippies provide the player with a means to add extra dice to their roll for the turn. For each chippy used, the player adds an additional unstable die. During the rolling phase, the active player rolls a number of stable dice equal to the number of players, plus any unstable dice generated by chippies. The player keeps all the unstable dice and takes 1 stable die of their choice. The other players may then, in turn order, draft a die of their choice. Between turns, stable dice may be stored in a player's warehouse, while unstable dice are discarded. Players may also spend dice to upgrade their cards. If an upgrade happens, the player may choose any of their cards that are on the 1.0 side and flip them over to the 2.0 side. This usually makes actions easier, costs less, provides more resources, and extra victory points. Play continues clockwise around the table until one player has at least 15 to 20 victory points at the end of their turn. That player wins the game. And this game has a solo mode which is pretty groovy if you want to play but can't get a group together. This is a wonderful game. I have to thank Rado for covering it in one of his list videos. I didn't know of its existence until then, and now I can't imagine my collection without this game. I really enjoy bringing it to the table and the fun everyone has. Well, most everyone anyway. If you like dice chucking, dice drafting, and tableau building, this is a game you have to try and maybe even buy. Oh, how I love science fiction games. I've mentioned this, haven't I? I especially love games where you get to move around the galaxy or a planetary system exploring, colonizing, fighting, and doing all sorts of space-related mischief. My number 2 game has this in spades. It's got variable player powers, a modular board, has dice rolling, area control, player interaction out the wazoo. Whew, this game has a lot of stuff. What is it? Empires of the Void 2. Empires of the Void 2 is a game designed by Ryan Lockett and published by Red Raven Games. It hosts from 2 to 5 players, aged 13 or older, and lasts from 90 to 180 minutes. This game is big on content and components. There's a fixed board with a bunch of empty spaces for inhabited planets. There are also a bunch of uninhabited planets and a space station on the board. Every game, planets are randomly placed on the board, then 6 planets, 3 of each, have the Sarkeen Regency. The Sarkeen Regency are a very powerful race, which makes it difficult to take over those planets or settle them. There's an action selection track where the active player may move and attack, research and build, take a card action or diplomatic action, recruit and gain an empire card, or scavenge. The other players may follow the action, refresh, gain income, reset their command, and draw power cards, or pay 2 command to take any other action. As such, every turn, everyone gets a chance to do something as either the active player or as a follower. The active player has to choose an action and may not pass, even if there is nothing to be done on an action. They also cannot use the same action as the last turn. Players can move around using any ship that provides space travel, world ship, star sloop, certain races, paying command points for each space moved. Once the movement is finished, if there is an opponent in the end space, combat ensues. This is generally done to take control of a planet. Players may also build cannons, academies, and cities on planets. Cannons may also be built aboard a world ship, giving the player an extra die when fighting. Resources are used to upgrade technologies and to reduce building costs for structures. At the end of a player's turn, they decide which power cards to discard in order to pay for the building. When a resource is used on a building track, it provides more income, increases hand size, and more command points. When a player is out of command points, their turn ends, and it's the next player's turn as active player. There's so much more to the game, such as playing action cards, completing missions, making deliveries, attacking ships, making deliveries to steal the cargo, recruiting alien species, or increasing your influence with other civilizations. There are 2 scoring phases. One happens when the scoring card is drawn. You may play a colonization card to score at any time before the first scoring card is drawn. Otherwise, you play it now. And the other happens at the end of the game when the last card of the power deck is drawn. At the game end trigger, play continues until the player with the first player card is the active player once again. The game then ends and points are tallied. The player with the highest victory point total is the winner. Ties are broken by most units on the board, most influence, then most credits. I really love this game. Like all of Ryan Lockett's games, the art is fantastic, the actions you take are interesting, and there's always something to do each turn. The game takes a bit of time to play, but it's so fun that it feels like you're pressed for time to get points. Quite a heart-pounding experience at times. If you like this style of game, complete with all of the player interaction, enjoy space and science fiction, try it. I think you'll like it. Did I say that this game has a lot of components? And my number 1 game of October is one that has hit the top 3 of a few months in the list. Here's a hint. It's space themed, it's got card drafting, lots of resources, plants, water, heat, corporations, pets. If you haven't guessed correctly by now, you haven't played Terraforming Mars. Yes, Terraforming Mars is finally the #1 game. It took a couple of months to get here, let me tell you what, and we've only ever played the base game, no expansions at all. Well, that will change in 2019, let me tell you what. I know I said it twice. And there you have it, the top 3 games I played in October 2018. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and that I may have inspired you to play some or at least one of the 3 games I've mentioned here. Look for the next top 3 very soon. Until then, game on. And as always, this is Excalibur, and I am out.